Good afternoon, everybody. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon on this beautiful Wednesday, the 8th of August, 2018. Man, oh man, have we had, you know what? This is going to be really interesting to watch because if the markets are a reflection of investor and trader sentiment, then that means that not a lot of people should be watching this. Because it's pretty typical when you get a fallout or crash in price, you get a lot as that accelerates the decrease in hope, the decrease in positivity, and just really the decrease in positive sentiment all over is pretty normal. So that is something to be expected. Of course, when we've talked about this, like back in the first week that we ever did this, I was mentioning that we've been here when we were first started off. When I first started with Forex Lens back in last year, we would also go over the crypto markets, and always going to be here to talk about cryptos because you can't. I think it's there. There are a lot of people who provide these kind of services, but they don't stick around when the market is boring or when the market is dull or when it's just not exciting. And they certainly don't stick around during prolonged periods of a down market. And I think that is a call to their maturity as analysts or traders if they can't or don't want to stay in a market just because it's not always going positive. And that's unfortunate because we have to understand that this is a market that will have long, drawn-out down periods. It is a market that, in a lot of ways, operates to the inverse of a normal. Well, not normal. I know what a normal market is, but traditional markets they take the stairs up, and then they take the elevator down. Cryptos like to take the elevator up and then a very long flight of stairs down. So that is a pretty normal thing to see. And for people who are new to trading or new to cryptos or who have money invested in it, it's certainly hard for them to watch not only their positions losing, but it's not a fast loss either. It's a long, drawn out process. For example, we've been in a 16-day downtrend since we had that original bull run up. So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, it's got to be. Is this not counting weekdays? Oh, no, it is. Yeah, so we've been in quite a move down. We've gone from the 25th of July at the 8,500 handle all the way down to where we're currently trading at, which is below the 85 handle. So we're at 82.50. To me, these are just buy the dip opportunities. BTD, buying the drop, buying the dip, whatever you want to call it. That's what these are. So when I see Bitcoin sitting at 6,200, I'm cool with that. We've dropped $2,000 in valuation, or almost to over $2,000 in valuation from this swing, and we're getting closer and closer to the normal fall bull phase. I like to see this buy. This is a place where we should be happy about seeing everything so low. We should not be upset. This should be pretty exciting. My brother-in-law is here, and I was telling him. He asked me how the day was going. I'm like, cryptos took a shit or took a crap, whatever. And he said, "Well, that doesn't sound good." And I said, "No, it's actually really exciting." He said, "Well," I'm like, "Well, let's say I saw this pickup out at a dealership, and it was 60 grand." And I'm like, "I would really like that." And then a couple days later, it's 20 grand. That's a nice discount. So, as traders, it's probably a little more frustrating to see this kind of price action, especially because it's a long bias market and it's not as easy to short as futures or forex. But this is definitely a very, very very awesome opportunity to get long. This is just, there is no real catalyst we have to look at on why this happens. That doesn't really matter. I think you just are going to drive yourself nuts if you ever try to figure out why something happens. But we do know that there is a short and or a long-term trend change happening here shortly. And if we look at the current conditions, we're approaching a pivot in time that's about 8 days away. But August 8th, I went over this yesterday, went over it today too in our Forex Lens. I think I went over it here yesterday, but during our conversation yesterday, went over Gann's. I have notebooks full of stuff. August 8th. I was looking at July 7th. August 8th, 47 days from June 22nd. Very important for a change in trend to watch for tops and bottoms. That is exactly what we want to see. Is we want to see some either new highs or new lows, or we want to see price near historical highs or lows. So history-wise, if we're going on a yearly basis, we are near the yearly lows. Okay, we've been in a range trade for quite a while. That hasn't changed. We've extended down below this linear regression channel. This is quite an extended move. We've got a lot of volume coming in on it. That's actually a good sign. But what's really great is a lot of these altcoins. So yesterday when I was talking about the Coinbase 5, I was talking about ADA, BAT, XLM, ZEC, and ZRX. So that's Cardano, Basic Attention Token, Stellar Lumens, OX, and 0x, and Zcash. And out of those 5, the 3 that I have the most holdings in are Cardano, Basic Attention Token, and Stellar Lumens. So Cardano, it has painted a new yearly low, I think, right? Yeah, so we've had a new yearly low formed at the 10,830, 10,815. Loved it. Actually, I had buy orders hit once it got down to 11,000 or 11 cents even. I had a bunch of buy orders kick in. So I'm very happy with that. It's August 8th. We formed a new low on August 8th. That's a big indicator that we have a change in momentum. And then also we're up against a time cycle here. This is actually a pretty common theme in almost all the cryptos, is that there is a major time pivot that pops up here. I don't think I have one set there for XLM. XLM, is down. Additionally, if we look at the relative rotation graph for cryptos, we can see definitely IOTA. I mean, by the end of the day today, when this data updates for the daily, we'll see all of these pointing down, including Cardano. But the ones that we're looking at and want to pay attention to on a long trade are Stellar Lumens, Cardano, Strat, not Zcash, it's too correlated to the center here. But certainly the ones that are already in the weakening and lagging categories are the ones that have the highest profit potential on the short term. So definitely XLM and Cardano. We were talking yesterday, before even before the selling pressure started, we were warned in the relative rotation graph that the ETC was a little overextended. Why? Because it's way, way, way far away from the mid, and we're going from improving, which means that we have been in an established uptrend, or we're either in an established uptrend or we've been in a very fast move up. And as we get into the leading category, that's where we want to consider selling. So we're looking to sell soon, and this is where we are looking to sell and leading, but obviously all of these are going to be pointing down at the end of today. So the best buy opportunities are sitting there with Cardano and Stellar Lumens, and I think that I think that those current conditions are fantastic for getting in here. I mean, it's kind of a gift, and even if it goes lower, that's kind of a gift. This is a pretty awesome thing to have happen. I'm kind of happy that we had this this throwdown in the price action, because I was afraid that we would continue to kind of marinate in that upper range, but no, that has changed. Just look at this, the length of time that we've been in this down move. All right. 14 days. 14 days, 2 weeks. It's a series of 7. That's a important cycle in Gann's work. The Fibonacci range here should also be noted. I know, again, somebody may be saying, well, that is not how you draw the Fibonacci retracement, but somebody who's smarter than all of us, Constance Brown, will tell you that the way we've all been doing it is the wrong way. All right. Okay, yeah, that is gorgeous. So, nice. The 886 Fibonacci, if you guys don't have that, you should really throw that on there. The 236 fib level, you don't need. The extensions are, you use those, but the only Fibonacci levels that you should have are the 382, the 618, and the 50%, the 0.5. And then the other one is the 886. The 886 fib retracement is a very, very, very powerful retracement level. When price stops around that area, it's a good sign of an imminent reversal. It's generally a fast reversal. And the reason for that is there's a number of Gartley patterns that are Gartley patterns are harmonic patterns. Are like the shapes of animals, or they're shapes of triangles, but they have names for them like bat, butterfly, and then shark is the one that has a strong sensitivity to the 886. The shark pattern, that's a relatively new harmonic pattern that was found out in 2011 by a trader named Scott Carney. He wrote a book on these, and it's a pretty awesome reversal pattern. The 886 level is extremely. It's a very, very, very responsive fib level, and we stopped right around that value area. So on a shorter time frame, it's no surprise that we have had some responsive buying from those levels. And also, I mean, when we're looking at these horizontal price levels, this thin blue line is a inner price harmonic. It's the exact center between the major harmonic of 75.62 and 56.71. So this is naturally a very difficult place for price to cross above or below and then maintain above or below. So when we see this happen, when we see price blow through this zone on a first test, it generally retraces. We will often see price retrace to this line, at least to the mid-level, and then if we do get a hold above it, then we typically see a pretty staunch reversal. So we've got that middle harmonic price value area at 63.01, and it's in between two major harmonics. And then also we have that 882 Fibonacci level, which is in the same value area, and that is a very strong reversal point. So that's what we're really observing here, is price has come down and it's just moved down. Doesn't matter the reason. People will say it's FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. That is not a reason for things to move. That is a result of why something moved. Okay, to suggest that price action has moved because of fear, uncertainty, and doubt is to assume that people were aware of something uncertain was bad and they traded on it all at the same time. That's not what happens in time cycles and in trading cycles. price action moves prior to human sentiment and news. That is just a fact of Gann theory and analysis. But saying that, want to get into the second component of what we're talking about, and we're going to get into the price action, and we're going to get into some buy zones here because there are many. I want to talk about the weird part that I don't bring up a lot. Well, I bring it up a lot, but I don't go into like a lot of depth. It's the third part of financial analysis. So in financial analysis or market analysis, there's three branches. There's fundamental analysis, which I think most people know what that is. That is studying, well, if you were studying in equity, you would be studying the company, who's the board, who runs things, what do they make, how do they relate compared to their peers, how have their earnings been, what is their forward guidance, all this jazz, what's their price to book, all that. And then fundamental analysis, that's an entirely lagging form of analysis. Technical analysis is a lagging form of analysis and a leading form of analysis, but it's mostly still lagging. So technical analysis, I think everybody here who is watching this live and watching the recordings, you know what technical analysis is. And then the third part is financial astrology. It's a stupid name. I know. I wish they would call it something different, but financial astrology is mathematical psychology based on astronomy. And actually, I was rereading one of the books because there was a quote, or not a quote, but it was an author, Larry Pesavento. He had a better description of it, and he wrote, let's see here. I know I have it somewhere. Oh, that, it's called rectification. It's the process of observing what is going on in the sky while observing what is going on in the markets all at the same time and correlating the two events together. And so there are thousands of years of records of correlating human events into what things we're doing in the sky, so to speak. So I think that is actually more of an astrological definition and not a financial astrological condition. But regardless, what we want to pay attention to is that there are strong correlative moves in financial markets to certain planetary positions. They call them aspects. And again, I'm not a hippie. I don't wear. I'm not like a zodiac horoscope person. That's not what I am. It's not about. I know I've gone over this a little bit before, but I'm not talking about how you can fall in love with that Sagittarius you love, because those names like Sagittarius, those are just definitions given to certain degrees in the sky around Earth. So instead of saying, something is, like it says Uranus is in between 30 and 60 degrees, well, that's given the name Taurus. Okay, so Taurus is a name given for the angles of 30 to 60 degrees. Just like we could say, well, Mercury is in the sign of Leo. Well, that's really saying that Mercury is in the angles of 120 and 150 degrees from where we are here on Earth. So that's all that is saying. And there are angular relationships of these planets and so forth. So the point is that in a lot of markets, we have well-established markets along with these planets showing up. There's a correlation. Okay, we're not saying, what I want to be very, very specific about this, that I am not saying that the planets' alignments and all that other astronomical stuff is cause. It's not. It's just a correlation. But when you get a lot of these things happening together, it's another form of it's another tool in your toolbox for analysis. So that's what I'm talking about. So I know we've gone over this before, but if I was to look at the aspect of the Sun and Pluto, and just looking at conjunctions, because conjunctions are the most powerful aspects in any financial market. Conjunctions, what that means is that the planets share an angle. They're not like on top of one another or crossing each other. That's actually called a super conjunction, but they share the same angle. So when Pluto is conjunct with the Sun, there are a number of rises that happen in Bitcoin. So there's a conjunction with the Sun, followed by a pretty steep rise. There's a conjunction with a rise, conjunction and a rise. We did not get that there. This is one of the only times that has not happened in the last 10 years. We've had a rise in value there, rise in value here, monstrous rise in value here, and we should continue to see that pattern play out. So the next conjunction here is like, I think, in February of 2019 or something. But those aren't the only ones. Okay, there's others. There's other things that we monitor to kind of give us a heads up of saying, okay, well, if there's this type of event going on over here in the future and price action has been trading up to it the whole time, that's a good indication that we might be at a market top. So there's an old, this is, you might even know what this is, but it's called the Bradley Siderograph, and this was developed in 1946. I think the guy's name was Daniel or David Bradley, but this is just a flow of it takes positive aspects, so positive angles of planets, and compares their frequency to the negative aspects of negative planets. So what we observe for Bitcoin is that it seems to follow this pretty accurately. It doesn't follow it like exact, but the green line represents the direction of a market move for the most part. So do we get some deviations? Sure. But for the most part, what we see is a very strong correlation of the markets and how they move to the Bradley Siderograph. And you can see this in, this follows the Dow Jones follows this very, very, very effectively. And so we're not looking for an exact move and a following of this. What we're mostly looking at, try not to think of the height of this peak being higher than this peak here. All we're looking for is try to think of these like swings. So in a Bradley Siderograph, if this is some type of high swing here, then we're looking for some type of swing high in that area. And if we know that there's a downtrend here, then we're looking for some type of downtrend to start around that time. And then as we see a market rising, we should assume that, you know, if we're at some type of swing low around here and we see some basing price action, then we can assume that there will be an uptrend following here in the future. All right, I know this is all kind of weird stuff, but yeah, and here's a good example. We had a divergence, a huge divergence here, where we had the Bradley Siderograph was falling, but Bitcoin just decided to shoot up quite a bit. And unfortunately, as we look at the Siderograph, it is pointing all the way down there. It's not a very happy pattern to look at. And we actually don't end up on that bottom zone until that next Pluto, or that Sun and Pluto conjunction on the 11th of January. So that's where it's indicating we should have some type of swing low. However, if we look at the years prior, when we've gotten to the fall area, even though it says the fall we move down, we've had inverse price action pointing to bullish momentum. So according to this, if we were to follow this, just like we did last year, we would anticipate higher price action moving up. So that's the Bradley Siderograph. Another thing to look at when people do financial astrology is they look at retrograde cycles, and for Bitcoin, the most important retrograde is Mars. And so retrograde means that it doesn't look like the planet's moving. Like if you were looking at Mars from Earth, it doesn't seem like it's rotating. It seems like it's sitting still or maybe even moving backwards, and that's just kind of a they call it direct. It's not moving direct, it's moving retrograde. It seems like it's moving backwards. But when we see Mars in a retrograde, we need to pay attention to the price action both upon entering that cycle and when it exits that cycle. So we could put, if we go back all the way to here, we can see that at the beginning there doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of price action in a Mars retrograde. It seems to be a fairly neutral to downtrending action. Just not a lot of activity. However, the point is that at the end of it, we do see a lot of responsive action in one direction or the other. There is a lot of activity that happens upon exiting a Mars retrograde cycle. And so we exit the Mars one on the 27th of this month, which is a big deal. 27th, we'll get to that. The other component, we've gone over this, is the lunar phases. So, where are you at? Moon phases. And we just want the new and full moons. So here we had a new moon, was at the market high. We've talked about this before. And so we see new moons, they pop up, full moons, they appear at market swing, they appear at swing lows and swing highs quite often. So we just had a new moon, and then that traded up to a full moon, and at the full moon we started trading down. Our next new moon is on the 11th, so that's 3 days away. So, and then we also look for the apogee, perigee. That's when the moon is the farthest and the closest it will be to the Earth. And when those show up right on moon phases, those are things to notice as well. So the real point of financial astrology is identifying a combination of astrological conditions that are kind of happening all around each other, and that have shown to be responsive, that have shown to appear during periods of market highs or lows. So, we could put up every single planet and this whole screen would be covered with vertical lines. I mean, we could create any conditions we want. We could really do the same thing that people do in the back test is people go into back testing with the original intention of trying to determine how profitable their system could be or how unprofitable their system could be. And then what eventually starts happening is instead of thinking, logically about what you're doing in a back test, you end up starting to create conditions where the back test shows positive for you, that the back test is always giving you amazing returns. So you kind of lie to yourself and think that it's going to be effective when we all know that is not how that ends up working. You can do the same thing in financial astrology. So the point is that you need to be very aware of what you are looking for. And so things with conjunctions are extremely important. They are very accurate. Get rid of Pluto. For instance, if we use Jupiter, the Jupiter and the Sun has a lot of positive activity. Jupiter Sun conjunctions, for whatever reason, they go back here. They usually appear at some type of swing low and then have a high forming. Same thing with Uranus. Actually, I don't know if this, I think I took notes and this one didn't Did it? No, it didn't. But there's negative ones too that we have to be careful of, like, the negative planets are... I have to reread my notes. Well, Uranus is always considered a bad one because that's when bad things happen. It's got Mars and Uranus, actually. Let's check that one. Mars and Uranus. And those are considered negative planets. Like, they have a negative impact on the markets. They don't always, but generally they do. And a square is a very ugly, yucky form of an aspect. Squares are regarded as negative aspects. And so we look to see, do these squares form up on some market highs? They don't. Not enough to really consider it. So then we look at oppositions. Again, and oppositions are where an opposition would be, they're opposite of one another. They're 180 degrees from each other. So it's a very easy one. So if we looked at a opposition, is there a swing high that appears with a Mars Jupiter opposition? Maybe. I mean, not enough to consider it. So just some things to think about. But if you can't get... the problem with financial astrology and cryptocurrencies is there's not a ton of data to go by in cryptocurrencies, okay? It's a new market. And not every market responds the same way. So, like in moon phases, the way that the Dow Jones reacts to moon phases is not the same way that the FTSE 100 responds. They're the inverse. But one of the big ones that we watch is there are these, when we were talking about the signs, and so where are we at? Planetary signs. All these funky colors here. Again, signs are nothing more than the name given for an area, a range of an angle. So, but from 30 to 60 degrees, that's called Taurus. From 60 to 90 degrees, that's Gemini. So it's just a range of 30 degrees is given. Each range of 30 degrees is given a name. So 90 to 120 is Cancer, and 120 to 150 is Leo, and so forth. And some signs seem to have a strong correlative move to price action more than others. And one of the first things that you learn in financial astrology is that the sun is always, no matter the market, the sun is always one that should be looked at. So again, here's the sun and all these different colors. We can get rid of the Mars. Well, we could just... There we go. And we'll take these, make these full size. All right, so I know, lots of colors. Let's start all the way at the beginning. So each one of these, whenever these colors change, that means that the sun moved out of 1 degree range into another. So the sun moved from 30 degrees in one block of 30 degrees to another one. So here we have the sun leaving Virgo and entering into Libra. Or we see the sun going into Aquarius. And let's just kind of look to see here, how often do either a swing high or swing low show up, or the culmination of a move to continue a trend show up in these transitions. So when the sun is moving from one sign to the other, there are often swings that are found in the markets. Okay. And one of the things that we want to identify when we're looking at these is we also want to identify, like, if there is, if we know, because we know well in advance when the sun will move into a new sign, and we know well in advance when a moon phase shows up. And if you see a time period where, if you see a day or within 2 days before or after, if you see a moon phase show up right during a sign change, that is sometimes a good heads up that there will be some type of price action coming. So, for example, right here, we had an apogee perigee along with the sun going into Aries that resulted in a pretty strong rise up. Gonna keep moving here, and if we see any, all right, here's another apogee perigee and there's a new moon on that date as well. Continuing to move. Let's see anything else. Not really. Getting into 2014. Let's just zoom out. Let's go to the current price action. Lots of activity right there, but not a lot of price action. And you'll notice too that not every transition yields a big move. Not every time the sun moves into a sign doesn't always mean that there is a swing high or swing low, but we're looking for patterns that show up. Is there a specific range of 30 degrees that Bitcoin has responded to pretty strongly in the past? And one of them might be Libra. So there's four cardinal direct and the cardinal points on a compass, like north, south, west, and east. And so we could just look at only those. So like it's Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer. Yeah, those are the four cardinal directions. And when we look at the past price action of those, we're looking to see, is there a lot of market activity that happens? Or is there a lot of swing highs and lows that form in any of these cardinal positions? Not really over here. I mean, we could say there was in Capricorn, there was in Libra. Libra might be here's Libra again. That had a strong move. Libra had a strong move. It looks like, there's that Libra. Yeah, Libra, this is Aries. Libra, it's a down move there. Libra had nut move. Aries, meh. Libra, pretty neutral there. So then we can just take these and say, okay, well, it looks like Libra looks like when Bitcoin enters and exits Libra, there's some type of activity. So way back in 2011, September 2011, we did have a down drive. We had some neutral price action in here. And let's see, we had higher trading prices here in 2013, October 2013. We did have a swing high that followed and exited at a low. We had swing low, traded higher. So what we don't often see when the sun enters Libra on Bitcoin's chart, at least, we don't often see flat prices during that 30-day period. We often see trending prices. And the next time we enter Libra is in October, beginning of October. And so the past few cycles in Libra in October have been uptrends. All right, so in financial astrology, we look for those things too. We look to have those plotted out. So that's there too. And then we also look for major, where are you at? Trying to find out where you're at. Well, that's okay. Oh, and the aspects, yeah. I want to also put this in there because I had written some notes because I was doing some research on those angles, and I think I didn't write those in here. Thought I did. That's okay though. We were looking at Jupiter and Mercury junctions. Yeah, no. Dang it, I can't remember which one it is. Anyways, I'm working on a more comprehensive, like a complete Finastro forecast and past price analysis for Bitcoin, because that'll really help us identify, well, if there's, we're not looking to predict here. We're not looking to predict prices, okay? We're looking to anticipate the culmination of euphoria or fear. And when we get to these zones where, if prices are trending towards, if they're trending up or down towards a significant culmination of moon phases, aspects, and retrograde cycles, we can assume with high probability that if there's other technical analysis that we're using and that's indicating there are some swing highs or swing lows there, that we know that some type of reversal is going to happen. All right, so that is just something to think about and look at. And saying that, when we come back to our crypto markets, what do we have going on here? How do we trade that activity? Well, the stuff we were looking at goes off into October. And in October, I can find that link here. Yep. So, not the link. I'm trying to find my file. So, yeah, August through October is where we should see things like mid-August, or really any time between now and October, is where we should see the kind of the culmination of some of the issues that are hanging overhead. So we could probably think of that being like the ETF issue. We can see those things coming to a halt, and then we can see some successful price action to continue. The fact that we have moved down so fast and with some very high volume pumps is kind of the catalyst that we need to get some motivation in here, because if there's not any buyers willing to push it up higher at its present value, then it is really easy to move price lower. And we know that bullish activity only happens when there is an incentive to come in and buy, and we have to wait for a discount of some sort. And that may be at this range right now. We may be at that discount zone. By the way, here's that 886 Fibonacci retracement level we were just talking, and while we were talking, Bitcoin did move lower. This is a beautiful kind of volume setup we like to see. If we know we have a certain horizontal price value area that should hold as a support zone, or at least a very difficult zone for price to cross above or below, when we start to see volume rising as it moves into those levels, that is a good support sign. So this here, at least on this hourly chart, is telling us that we have a lot of buyers stepping in at these levels. And the thing is the volume in all the market, like when we were talking about Forex this morning, the volume has just been really blech. But when we're looking at this is a very typical looking bear trap. You have this because everybody else, I mean, you may or may not use linear regression channels, but a lot of people do. So this is, I mean, I know that there's probably a lot of traders that have a channel similar to this on their screens, and of course it is very bearish when it breaks down below. But the breakdown below on the past price action and the volume is not very honest or indicative of a further down move. I mean, certainly it could. I'm not saying it couldn't because the volume is still pretty yucky, but there is a strong bullish buying zone that we're sitting in that could really lend a strong retracement into this regression channel, because ultimately we still are in a bullish flag. Okay, we have not broken the low from this last swing low. We have not broken that. We've had a very strong response off that 886 fib level just here on the hourly, and so we should expect to see some counter trend move going forward. We've got the time cycles that we're talking about. The time cycles are showing an absolute bottom. And in fact, when we were talking about the moon, that new moon phase, it could be a new moon. The next moon phase pops up in 3 days. And Larry Pesvento, he did a study, and it was of the Dow Jones market. And so we can just consider it a baseline for all the other stuff. But in his study, he tested the moon phases from 1885 to 2013. And so there were a total of 1,583 cycles, and started on 2/16/1885 and finished the test on 2/26/2013. And for the most part, when we're entering a swing low on this moon phase for Bitcoin, it is preferable to buy 3 days before the moon phase starts. So today is the day, according to his cycle analysis. Today is the day to buy stuff in cryptocurrencies, because we're at a swing low. We have a phase coming up in 3 days. And then additionally, it's August 8th. We have multiple markets around, not just here in cryptos, but in our Forex markets as well. What did I hit there? In our Forex markets, we have a lot of markets that are at the beginning and end of their time cycles, like, let's see, New Zealand, not the New Zealand dollar, dollar yen, not that one. Was it the pound? Yeah, the pound was at a new cycle. I know there were some others. Pound is at a new time cycle. Yeah, New Zealand dollar is at a new time cycle. The Aussie dollar is at a new time cycle. The euro, it's on a pivot in time. Gold is near a pivot in time. Gold is gonna be the best trade of the year. Gold is gonna be freaking awesome. So a lot of these things. It's just weird that, Gann specifically called out August 8th as an area to be the swing highs and lows going into the next 45-day period. All right. I mean, this is all really just kind of playing along into the other Gann theory that we've talked about that's been going on since July. We've been talking about lows being found. When we were talking this morning in our Forex markets about the dates, because we've gone through before, we've talked about the counts for Gann's work, counting days from swing highs and swing lows, and that to look for market turns on certain accounts. And he had a number of those. He has the, what are the cycles? There's the 45, 90, 120, 135, 144, 180, 216, 225, 240, 270, 315 and 1 year or 365 day cycles. So there's a number of counts that we use, but then there's only 10 specific dates that Gann talked about that he said were extremely important. That's December 22nd, February 5th, March 21st, May 6th, June 22nd, July 7th, and then August 8th. Okay? And after that, it's September 23rd, November 8th, and December 22nd. So August 8th is where we are sitting. And Gann said, very important for a change in trend and watch for tops or bottoms. That is exactly what we are looking for. That is exactly what we have currently in Bitcoin. And that is a beautiful candlestick right there. That is gorgeous. That is a hammer of hammers. And I mean, this responsive buying from this level is not expected. We were talking about this as we were visiting, that this is a middle harmonic range in price. So this is a naturally supportive zone, and then that Fibonacci level where it got where it hit it. It's a zone. That Fibonacci 886 zone was hit. So that's a very strong responsive rejection area. So I mean, yeah, we're just really seeing these things play out as we would anticipate them to play out. When we were talking last week and early on Monday, we hit that 6,900 zone, and this did travel lower than what I was talking with you about, and so that's kind of cool to watch it get to these new lows around here. Well, not new yearly lows, but it's certainly swing lows and get to this level. That is it's kind of neat to watch that play out. Because again, we look at Cardano, very strong swing low here. Not Nano's been pretty flat. Basic attention token, XLM, Litecoin's in a beautiful buying spot. Litecoin, man, I tell you, it's right up against this pivot in time. And where is the? Oh yeah, we're right up against the major harmonic as well. Like, Litecoin is a freaking screaming buy. It's the support at this Gann arc, this pivot in time. There's a major harmonic right below it, 56 even. This is a stupid buy zone. And it's new yearly lows too. So it's August 8th. New yearly lows. Gann said to watch out for those. That's what we have going on here. So it's kind of cool that this has all happened, because it'll be fun to come back to this video, and if we actually have seen a basing of the price here, and that these are the lows kind of going into the next 45-day cycle, then we'll have some great video, historical video stuff to go that we can add into our catalog of our past price analysis, because what we're doing right now is we are walking forward, where we're implementing analysis live instead of just back testing it. So this will be fun to analyze later on this video. Anyways, it's 154. What's the use case? Yeah, I think there's a lot of use case left, Mohammed. I haven't heard any more about LitePay, but the Litecoin Foundation, they are very, very proactive about. They're probably one of the most proactive teams about going out there and getting, a mainstream adoption, because Litecoin isn't trying to supplant Bitcoin. Litecoin is trying to do what all cryptos should be doing if they want to be a transaction-based coin, is they're trying to get mainstream adoption as a transaction platform, or as a medium of trade. So LitePay is very, very good about going out there and pushing itself. And I would anticipate Litecoin being one of the first, if not the first, non-Bitcoin coin that is kind of used by a large amount of people. So, or by a well-known company of sorts. I know, like, Amazon in the past has been mentioned as accepting Litecoin possibly in the future, but we'll see. We'll see. Dollars to donuts in the fall, we will hear a lot more about that kind of stuff. Like, that'll be the new blockchain crypto thing. It won't be just about the rise in its value as a tradable asset. It'll be about its adoption in the mainstream. That's what we'll start to hear a lot about. So, yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys have had a good trading day so far, a good trading week. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow to see if we actually made more lows going out into the rest of the day here, or if those have kind of been set. Now we see a relief rally of some sort that might turn into an actual major trend change. So let's keep our eyes open, trade well, trade smart, and I will talk with you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.